sketching quadratic equations, anytime you've got something with a squared in it, it's going to be a parabola. So sketching these are, as long as you can do this assignment we just did, it's going to be easy to sketch. You got to find the vertex, the axis of symmetry, and then maybe just one other point to see how wide it is. I'm going to start off with easier ones. If you just said this is the most basic quadratic there is, y equals x squared. Again, in order to sketch it, you could do it the old-fashioned way. You could just find a bunch of values. If I put 0 in for x, y is 0. If I put 1 in, 1 squared is 1. Negative 1 squared is also 1. 2 squared is 4. Negative 2 is 4. And then you could just plot them. 0, 0, 1, 1, negative 1, 1, 2, 4, negative 2, 4, and you can see there's your quadratic. So, this is the basic y equals x squared. The center's at 0, 0. It opens up like this. If it was y equals negative x squared, you really wouldn't even have to find anything. It would just be the mirror image of this, going down like that. It would be 1, negative 1, negative 1, negative. I made it a little too wide, but okay. Now, after you do a few of these, you'll see if the number in front of the x squared is bigger, it's either going to get tinier, squished more together, or it's going to get wider. So I'll just show you, if you had a y equals 4x squared, would you guess that this would get more squished together or like a flatter, a more wider u? Any guess? Wider. If we find some numbers, again, 0, 0 is the vertex. If I put 1 in there for x, y is 4. Negative 1 is also 4. 2 is 16. Negative 2 is 16. So, 0, 0, 1, 4, negative 1, 4. 2, 16 is way up here. Negative 2, 16 is way up here. So, the number in front of the x squared, if it gets bigger, what happens to the u? It gets narrower. It gets narrower, more squished together. So the ones that are greater, the bigger it gets, the more narrower it gets. The smaller it gets, if I did 1/4, what's going to happen? Wider. It's still 0, 0. The only time it's going to not be 0, 0 is if there's a number added on the C part. If I put 1 in, now I get 1/4. If I put negative 1, I get 1/4. 2, I get 1. Negative 2, I get 1. 3 squared is 9 times a fourth divided by 4 is 2.25. So negative 3 is 2.25. 4 squared is 16 times a fourth is 4. Negative 4 is 4. So this one is 0, 0. 1 over and a fourth up, 2 over and 1 up, 3 over and 2.25 up. And it's always going to be symmetric, so if you find one side, you can just mirror it, reflect it over to the other side. 4 over 4 up. So there's enough to just see that it's going to be going like this. So, but there's a quicker way than finding a whole bunch of points and plotting them. All you got to do is find the vertex, which is what we did on this assignment. You got to find negative b over 2a. So in this one, there is no b. There's no x. So that means b is 0. 2 times a is 6, so it's 0. Then in order to figure out what the y is, you just plug 0 in there, and what do you get? 0. Again, if there's nothing added on, it's going to be 0. So then you plot that point. The axis of symmetry goes through that point. So I know the axis is just right on the axis itself. The axis of symmetry is x equals 0. And then all we got to do is figure out how wide it opens. So you really only need to find a couple of points. So I know I put 0 in because negative b over 2a tells me that's the vertex. So just put a point in next to 0, 1. 3 times 1 squared is 3. If I put in 2, you guys, 3 times 2 squared is, 2 squared is 4, it's 12. Now you don't need to plot those big numbers, it just tells you how quick it rises. 1 over 3 up is right there. Now this is why they have you find the axis of symmetry. It's going to be a reflection. Since this point is 1 away from the axis of symmetry, the other point is going to be 1 on the other side. Axis of symmetry cuts it in half. That's why you only got to find 1 and then you can flip it over. And then 2 over 12 up is way up here. So you don't need to graph it, you just need to know it rises quickly.
Is it just on the y-axis or is it on the x-axis?
On the, you mean when you flip it?
Yeah.
It'll flip over the x it'll flip this way every time.
Oh, so like let's say like it's on like 1 and then you gotta flip it like, can you flip it like over on the right side?
To this way?
Yeah.
If you found a point that was on the left side of the axis of symmetry, then you'd flip it over this way. Does that make sense? Okay. So all you're sketching, that's all you got to do is find the vertex and then 1 or 2 points, and then you can sketch it in. So this one does have a b in it. So when you find negative b over 2a, b is 8, so it'd be negative 8 over 2 times a, negative 6. So if you divide this out, it's 4/3, which is 1 1/3. Which is 1.3 repeating. So I know then at 1.3 repeating over is the x-axis, or the x coordinate. Then you got to put 1.3 repeating in. Now this is the case where you can't put in a repeating decimal in your calculator, so you're going to want to leave it 4/3. So when you put this in, if you don't have a fraction calculator, remember you just put in 4 divided by 3. So you got to put it in parentheses to square it because it's squaring the whole thing. If you just punch in 4 divided by 3 squared, it's only going to square the last thing you put in. So you got to put parentheses. So it'd be 3 negative times parenthesis 4 divided by 3 parentheses squared plus 8 times 4 divided by 3, and it's 5.3 repeating. So at 1.3 with repeating, which is 1 1/3 over and 5 1/3 up, there's the vertex. Does it open up or down? Down. So all I really need is maybe 1 or 2 points to see how wide it is. Now this is the axis of symmetry. X equals 1.3 repeating is the line that cuts it down. So you're always going to sketch in that dotted line there. It'll help you for sketching the the parabola. So we gotta find another point. What's an easy number we can plug in, either to the right of this dotted line or to the left of this? No, there's a real easy one we can plug in. 0. 0 is close to this line. If I plug 0 in, what do you get? 0. So 0, 0 is another point. And again, you can reflect it over this line. From here to here is 1 1/3. So I gotta go 1 1/3 over. So 1 1/4. If I move over just one full spot there, and then another third, I can put a point there. And that's all we need because we can see it's real narrow. So then you just draw in like that. Okay, so to sketch these, we need to always start with negative b over 2a. The b is a negative 4, so negative 4 is positive 4. A is a negative 4. 2 times negative 4 is negative 8. So that simplifies to negative 1/2. So on the coordinates, that just tells me that negative 1/2 over is the axis of symmetry. So on your graph, you could put that in right away. There's negative 1, here's negative 1/2. I know this is the line that's going to cut it into 2 equal parts. Then to find what y is, you plug negative 1/2 in for the x's. So again, since it's negative, don't bother putting it in the squared part. But you do need to put it in the parts that's not squared. You get 9. So at 1/2, negative 1/2, and up 9. So what you can do on these, you can change your scale. If I have these go by 1s, I could just go up by 3s on these, like that. So 3, 6, 9 is right there. There's the vertex. Does it open up or down? Down, because it's negative. So what would be a real easy number to put in again? 0. Usually 0 is going to be easy unless that is the actual vertex. If I put 0 in here, this turns to 0, that turns to 0, and that's 8. So at 0 over 8 up, because I went by 3s, so you got to estimate where 8 is. And then you flip it over the line, because it's symmetric. That doesn't quite tell me enough yet. So what I would do is plug 1 in. If I put 1 in, negative 4 times 1 squared is negative 4. Minus 4 times 1 is negative 4. Plus 8 is 0. So there I get a good idea. And then again, you can reflect that over. It's 1 1/2 away from the dotted line. So go 1 1/2 away from it on the other side. And then you can draw it in.
And you only need to make 3,
Yeah.
or 5 points at least, right?
Yeah, you get the vertex, find a point, flip it, find a point, flip it. So you really only need to find 3, sometimes only 2. If you find these 2, and then the other 2 are like way down here, you don't need to make a graph. You just know it drops fast. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Or if you get huge numbers and it's going up, you don't need to plot them. You
It's
just
like
know it goes
the
up quick.
next 2 right there would be a pretty rapid drop.
Yep. If you put 2 in, it would be way down here. And then also, we do gotta, you have to label the vertex. So even though you find it, put the vertex right next to either the top or bottom, whichever one you're doing. So for this one, again, you start off with negative b over 2a. B is negative 2, so negative 2 is 2. A is 1, 2 times 1 is 2, so we finally got one that's not a fraction, it's 1.
You're disgusting.
You do it all the time.
So, on your graph, at 1 you can put a dotted line, because that's the axis of symmetry. Then we gotta figure out what y is, so we plug 1 in for the x. 1 times 1 squared is 1, take away 2 times 1 is 2, take away 3 is negative 4. So at 1 over, 4 down is the vertex. So then you gotta label it. And it will open up because it's positive. So what's a real easy number to plug in?
0.
0. Remember, you can plug in numbers on either side of that dotted line. 0, 0, minus 3. So at 0 over 3 down is a point, and then just flip it over. Now, I still don't know quite enough yet. So what I could do is put in negative 1, or if you don't want to deal with negatives, put in 3. Because here's 1,
because that's on the line.
here's 2, and here's 3. Whatever you get for 3, it's going to flip over whatever you get for negative 1.
So you always have to worry about the line of symmetry too.
The line of symmetry, yep. So again, you could put in negative 1, but so you don't have to deal with negatives, I'd put 3 in. You'd get the same answer as when you put negative 1 in.
9.
So that's 9 minus 6 minus 3 is 0. So that's there, and then you can draw it in like that.
We practiced there, right?
Nope.